I have got to get this under control. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Bree. This is For a Positive Book. You read that right. I'm going on a book buying ban. I have way too many books, okay? I have bought way too many books this year. Do you remember when I said that I was going to read 50% of the books that I brought in 2025? I'm not anywhere close to that, and we are into the second half of the year, which means I need to get a handle on things. If I want to come to you at the end of the year saying I did these things, I need to start now. And that's what we're doing. So thank you to Mel from Melanor Reads, who came up with this fantastic idea, and she's doing it over on her channel. I want you to stop what you're doing here and go watch hers if you haven't done that yet. I'm gonna link it down below. Once you do that, you can come back here and then we'll chat. All right, you watched that one? Good. So Mel has a challenge. It's called Overbooked. And basically you get a sticker for every book that you read that meets a category. And I was like, this is genius because we're gamifying things. We have a reward system instead of a punishment system, which is important. And it's just fun, okay? I like something that's fun. I like something where I get to check off boxes. And that is exactly what we're going to do. So I came up with my own board. It's not as cool as Mel's because it doesn't actually spell out anything. But two banks? Here we are. So I wanted to come up with my own categories that matched the goals that I am trying to work on, okay? So let's talk about the different categories. Let's talk about the rules. Let's talk about any exceptions. I'm going to be doing it very similarly to Mel, but not exactly the same because obviously we all have different goals. So first let's talk about the goal of this. The idea is I want to stop buying books that end up sitting on the shelf for years to come. I also want to cut back on my spending because I looked at how much I'd spent this year so far on books and it's a lot. Especially when I bring in all these books and then I'm not reading them immediately. I want to buy books that I am excited to read. I want to buy books that I have read and loved. What I don't want is to buy books and then they sit up here to like gather dust. Because I do love having a large library. I love having a big selection to choose from, but I want to be smart about it. I am running out of space and I don't want to spend money on books that I might go and unhaul a year or two later. That's silly. I also have Kindle Unlimited, which means that I can read these books on my Kindle, or I can read them on audio. There's so many different avenues of ability to read the books. I don't need to own a physical copy of everything. So that's the goal. Here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to make a couple of exceptions for myself because if I give myself a flat book buying ban, it's not going to work. I'm not going to succeed in it, and I'm just going to feel like a failure, which is not good for anyone. So if I give a book 5 stars before I bought it, then I can go buy it because I'm going to want to own that book, right? Secondly, book boxes are not going to count, and that's only the subscriptions. If there is a special order coming out or a special edition that I can buy in addition to the book box, that's all part of it, okay? I have to work towards it. I have to give myself that's a reward. And then the last exception is going to be if I buy it on Pengo Books using Pengo store credit. I have several $100s in Pengo Bucks. And so that feels like free money, right? Because it came from books that I sold. It's not really free money, but girl math. So if I don't spend any money, that won't count. If I spend my own money, then it counts, okay? And I have to follow my reward system. So those are the exceptions. Other than that, I have to follow this. I have to use the reward system and buy books when I'm supposed to. So let's talk about the different categories, the different boxes that we can use. And once I read a book that fits this box, then I get to put a little check mark in the square. So looking at this table, I have 4 different tiers, 7 different boxes. And so let's talk about what each one is. So the first one is T, and that's going to be a TBR vet. That means that I purchased it 2024 or earlier. It means that for this year, it was on my physical TBR video that I did back in January. It's not a book that I hauled in 2025. Then we have owned, and that means that as long as I own it physically, then it counts. It means I could have hauled it in 2025 or 2024, and I can only put it in one box. I can't do 2 check marks for one book, so I'll have to decide where I want to put it. If it was on my 2024 TBR, I either decide if it's going to go into TBR Vet or owned. see how that works. Next up, we have BookBox. And so that means that it was Fairy Loot, Owlcrate, Book of the Month, Illumicrate, Afterlight, any of those book boxes. I'm really good about getting the boxes. I'm less good about reading them. I have a lot of pretty books on my shelves, but a lot of them are unread. They're taking up a lot of space, so if I don't like them, I need to get rid of them, but because they're so pretty, I don't want to get rid of them until I read them. Then we have A, and that's going to be for ARC. I have a very large NetGalley list. I have a lot of books that are ARCs from authors. So these are ones that are necessarily books that I own physically. However, if I don't make this a priority, if I don't make this, like, you know, put this onto the forefront of my mind, then I potentially will forget about them because they don't exist if they're not physically here. Does that make sense? So in order for this to count, it needs to be on my NetGalley, or it needs to be a book that an author has sent me for review. And then in we have is new author. And that just means an author that I haven't read from before. A lot of times I tend to gravitate towards authors that I've already read from before, authors that I love and adore and want to read more of. And so then the new authors tend to sit by the wayside. So just an author that I haven't read from before. Easy peasy. And then K is a book on my Kindle. I have Kindle Unlimited. I pay for Kindle Unlimited, and sometimes I really utilize it and I read a ton of Kindle Unlimited books, but in other months I don't read as much, and I want to get better about that. So that means that I can read something that's on Kindle Unlimited. I can read something that was from Stuff Your Kindle. However it is, if I read it on my Kindle. I also just really want to read on my Kindle more often. I typically will go about a week and I'll read a ton on my Kindle, and then I'll forget that it exists for a couple of weeks and go back to just like audio listening. And I want to get better at that. And then lastly for S, it is series, and specifically it is continue a series, not start a new series, because listen, I have a lot of books that I've started. I have a lot of series that I've started this year, and I need to be better about finishing them. So I get a check anytime it is a continuation. It can be a sequel, it can be book 3, it can be the last book in the series, whatever. It just can't be book 1. Now, here's where the rules are going to change just a little bit from Mel's Game. And that is because my big focus is to read the books that I have hauled this year to get my number back up to 50% or higher even. That would be cool. So for some of these, it won't be possible for me to read a book that I purchased in 2025, right? TBR Vet had to have been owned 2024 previous. So if it's not a book that I hauled in 2025, I will get a pink X, and that gives me 1 point. Now, if I read a book that I purchased in 2025, meaning that it is going to that percentage number, then I get a purple X, and that is worth 2 points. Now, looking at this big grid, I need a total of 7 points across the row in order to get the tiered reward. So that could mean that I am reading 7 books, and it is 1 for every single box. Or it could mean that if I purchased it in 2025, I get a little bonus for one of them, and I could potentially read fewer books. Now, here's where I need your help. I need to know what I should do for my tiered rewards. So tier 1 is going to be something a little bit easy, because obviously I only have to read a maximum of 7 books for it. And then we'll escalate and go a little higher. One of the tiers, obviously, either tier 3 or tier 4, will be buy a new book, because, you know, that is the point of the game. The other one might be to purchase something else for my hobby, like another hobby that I'm doing, maybe a new coloring book, maybe new Star Wars Unlimited cards, something else that kind of like equates to my non-reading hobbies, because I do have some of those. But let me know, what do you think I should do? I am open to suggestions for the tiered rewards. Now, the last thing. What do I do if I fail? What do I do if I buy a book and it wasn't time to get a reward? I'm so glad that you asked. I have to take off the most recent X, whatever that was. Okay, so if I buy one book, I have to take off whatever the most recent X was. That means that it could potentially be one that's 1 point, but it could potentially mean one that was 2 points. So I really don't want to do that. We don't want to do that, okay? We want to get these rewards. I think that this is going to be a really good system for me. I'm really hoping that it will help me in the future, you know, not bring home so many books, she says, as she has a stack of books that need to go on her shelf. I've done pretty good about my 2024 number, but my 2025 number, the books that I have hauled this year, it's been a lot. It has been a lot. And I thought making the goal of reading 50% of them during the year, and I would come to you at the end of the year saying, I read half of the books that I purchased, I thought that would keep me in check. It did not. It 100% did not. So we're going to do better about that. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Am I going to succeed? It's going to be a challenge for sure, but I think we can do it. And if you have any ideas or suggestions for the tiered rewards, let me know down in the comments below. And if you're doing a challenge like this, if you were inspired by Mel as I was, let me know. We will do this all together. If you're not feeling chatty, do whatever wild animal emoji speaks to you today. I'm gonna put a couple of videos right here for you that YouTube thinks that you're going to like. If you want to stick around, go say hi. I'll see you over there. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little button you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, my Goodreads, my Threads, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!